The Software Leaders Uncensored podcast, where tech leaders grow beyond the code.
You're listening to Software Leaders Uncensored, the raw, real talk podcast for tech execs who are tired of buzzwords and BS. My name is Steve Taplin, author, serial entrepreneur, builder of over 30 companies, all having one thing in common: custom software to differentiate what we're doing. Now I solely help companies scale engineering and build software better through my company Sonatify. For this show, I go straight to the source, CTOs, founders, tech leaders, to unpack what's working, what's broken, and how to actually build better. So let's get into it. On the show today, we're very lucky to have Bazyl Horsey out of Chicago. Bazyl is an extraordinarily talented software engineer that has worked his way up through the ranks. Is a CTO, is a founder, is currently a Chicago-based guy, which is my hometown. And Bazyl, welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be here, Steve. Thanks for having me. So, I guess I can just start off with my story and get that out of the way.
Walk our listeners through the journey of your career.
Yeah, so I started off in college. I was a pretty average student. I didn't really get a lot of support roles and like help with internships. Wasn't really landing anything. And I came across just online, LinkedIn, I believe, like this Google grant program for Midwest entrepreneurship. It was crazy amount for me. And I went out and just went for it because, I've always felt like I was an opportunistic person. That was my special ability. And I went to the School of Business. I was like, here's this thing, never taken a business class, never met any of these people. And I'm like, this can make the school some money. I know 2 other guys in the CS department that can do this project. It's now deployed across the state of Iowa. And it was just this, first success, completely surpassed anything that I could have done in an internship. And we used the money, gathered it. And I was like applying to Apple, Facebook, all these, big companies that say you're supposed to, and never even got, past the second interview. And it was, I was very hard on my self-esteem. And I was like, well, maybe this isn't the right path. Maybe I should try to be different. And, I'm very grateful that I believed in myself even at that point, because now, I'm in a space where I've just jumped so many steps in my career.
Let me really reiterate this, because this is an amazing story, Bazyl. So you were in college, you were getting a software engineering degree, you were applying for internships, not making traction, and instead you went for a 4-house grant and you got it. Like, that is an amazing story about getting knocked down, but keeping persistence going and finding something better. I'm excited to continue this conversation. That's an amazing background.
Yeah. And so we, built this company. It was interesting because all of our managers, we were hiring business kids under us as computer science students. So it was like flip-flopped, and I knew nothing about business. So I was reading all these books and trying to learn, making mistakes very quickly. And also, recognizing that I fit more into a technology leadership role. And being a CEO is a whole nother skill set. It was a technology consulting firm in Iowa. Everybody out there thought that we fixed printers, and we're like IT. So it was hard to get success. We were also working a global market as a bunch of students. Like, we kind of just eventually figured out that, hey, we could recap this money, pay off some loans. I was also working with another company in Iowa, a startup in Iowa, called Colony. They got pre-seed funding and decided to move out to Chicago, and I decided to join them as the CTO and gathered kind of the group of founders, and we all went out there and joined Colony, and they're in the micromobility IoT space in a more B2B to C type market. It was a really cool experience because it was like, just always jumping into these leadership roles where I was still engineering and very hands-on, but I was able to make decisions that didn't always work out for the best. But then you keep making those mistakes, and if you grow from them, you realize like, wow, now I actually, I'm able to mentor other people and like, hey, don't make these stupid fucking mistakes I did. And so it's been a long time since I graduated college. It feels, I guess it's only been, a few years, but it's like the amount of growth and looking back, it's pretty wild to see.
Well, I love it how you created your own opportunities to do that. I'm finishing up my second book right now, and although the title's in flux, the premise of the book is 30-20-10. I have had 30 businesses, 20 have failed, and 10 have been successful.
Oh, yeah.
And at first, when I was doing that, I'm like, wait a minute, is that a good stat? And then I was like, 30-20-10. That's a 333 batting average. That would get me in the Hall of Fame in baseball. But, learning from failures, creating your own opportunities, being persistent when other people would give up has been how I've made my career. And it's exciting to see how you created your own engineering career and propelled into the CTO role very quickly by creating your own opportunities. So hats off to you.
Yeah, thank you. So a couple years ago, I started. They were about a year in business, but really, still super early ideation phase. Arvest is a AI smart warehousing company focused on.
And so Arvist is your current company. So please
Sorry to jump.
tell our listeners about it.
Yeah. So we basically integrate with all of the smart camera or CCTV cameras and all of the warehouse management systems. Integrate with basically everything we can, all the IoT in a given network, and we run AI across it. And our motto is kind of it's brain of the warehouse. So we're trying to help with automating safety and quality management through a plethora of different modules people can turn on. They can control the cameras, they can see insights and dashboards, and they can get notifications if there's critical events like, hey, this like $5,000 fridge, that you're about to spend $1,000 shipping has, a dent in it. You should probably not ship it off. We automate that, and we're reducing error rates by really, really dramatic amounts. So it's great that we're definitely the fastest growing company that I've ever worked for. I'm very proud. And a lot of that I think is attributed to not making the same stupid mistakes that I made before, and like that overcoming. It's like, I wonder if I went back and didn't make those mistakes with my previous companies, I've had that same growth rate, but you can't change the past. And so I'm in some ways I'm grateful, because it's like I love your team. And
Basil, how did you land the CTO role at Arvest?
So there was already a CTO, but I mean, to be frank, he came from like an AI PhD background. He didn't really know much about platform building, and that was my specialty. And I came in and I was like, so you have all these AI models, but where's the dashboard? Where's the actual usage? It's like, we don't have that. And I was like, well, I'm not normally the sharkish, but I'm like, it's in your best interest if you make me the CTO. We, restart, build a new team here in Chicago. We funded a pre-seed and worked with Techstars, funded by Techstars. We're now moving on to our seed round that's doing pretty well. So we're planning on expanding out really rapidly. We're already over the 1 million ARR market. We've only been in business or really active a couple years. And we're finally at this point of platform stability. Everything's going great. Teams like starting to mentor each other. And I'm starting to see that's kind of like, really great horizontal mentorship and, employee pool where everybody's, active, discussing, healthily arguing, and we're not constantly like burning the ship and rebuilding it. We're really starting to focus on
let's dive into your engineering team. How many engineers do you have right now?
Right now we have 6, but all like super strong, passionate people. And I will say, what's really the correlation I'm starting to find in technology is, but all the PhDs and master's level people we've given chances to, and I've had to fire them from lack of velocity, being, concerned about doing things the right way, and I'm a very, I'd say, correct oriented manager in coding. I can be kind of a bitch to take sometimes. I'm like, no, you can't code it that way. There's a difference between that and not taking action on things. Every single one of our engineers came from artist background. We have one guy that used to play in the Chicago Orchestra, went to music school. We have another guy who was in the Coast Guard and was shooting 50 cals at boats. Nobody on our team that has went into like our, senior level engineering roles has had a bachelor's of computer science except me. And so I just work with a lot of cool guys who are new and fresh, but extremely smart and talented and have learned so much. And like, this is all, a lot of the people, it's like their first time doing a real coding job. And it's like they're getting to my level, and it's like identifying skill sets beyond resume, I think is really important for today's CTOs, and identifying and not just being like, this person went to MIT. One of the people we hired went to MIT and had a PhD and was like super slow, and was like, and everybody was like, well, they're a fresh engineer. And it's like, well, these people went to coding boot camps and they were doing things, and
So
better.
your current team today, are you guys in office? Are you remote? How's your team structured?
We have a couple people remote. I think 3 to be precise. Everybody else on our team, like if you count our full team, we're maybe closer to like 10. So it's about, I'd say 2/3 of our team are in office, and hybrid. Like I probably come in maybe 3-4 days a week, really flexible. But we actually work in the Lyric Opera House. If anybody from Chicago is listening, you can find us on floor 10.
That's a cool building to be working out of, to say the least.
We were in the Merchant Mart, but I don't know if you heard they closed down the big co-working space. Side topic, but
Well, yet again, why I moved out of Chicago over 20 years ago, but still a Chicago Bears fan and a Cubbies fan, like your jersey you have.
well, I'll be honest. I'm a Cardinals fan, but I do like the Cubs too. I'm weird like that.
So, as a CTO, what's your current or ideal tech stack?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. What I personally like is I'm very big on systems oriented, concurrent, low level languages. I'm a huge fan of Rust. I'm active in their community. That's where most of my open source work is at, and that's where I think the world is moving with like C-level operations. But hard to find hard to find engineers at a price point and just a level of like people who are open to work. So because we're a startup and we work with AI ML, there's a lot more natural languages to those kind of engineers. So I went from more fast velocity, easy to find, moderately priced engineers, and trying to teach how to make those languages more mature, more verbose, and not just shorthand code to make them stronger. So we use mostly TypeScript and Python. I'm very big on the Docker community. I think that the Docker has changed the engineering game. All our systems are Docker based, and our team loves it because really the culture that I've been building, anybody can code in whatever they want inside the containers, and there's never any conflicting packages because everybody's building up different operating system containers basically, so they can pick out Debian, install the things for if they want to build in Ruby, Java, Python. I don't really care as long as they have strong linting, and we put things through security systems to make sure they don't have hard coded secrets or API keys in the code. So that's been super powerful for us because when we are given a business challenge and we assign somebody to them, we don't really think a whole lot about, it's like, hey, what are you most comfortable with for building this project? We still have to make sure that, if somebody picks a really obscure language that nobody else on the team knows, like that's a big reason that I'm constantly wanting to write things in Rust. And I'm like, oh, I could do this in 30 seconds. But I'm like, well, if I'm not able to take care of this because I'm busy on something else. So I also am kind of forced to, use more common languages among the team, but we're super flexible with Docker. So huge fan of that.
Are you hands-on keyboard, Basil? Are you coding as part of your day-to-day?
When we first started, I was like, we have no platform and 7 customers. And these are installations, operations. So like 7 customers is actually, pretty substantial project to take on day 0. These aren't just, either businesses. And so my first year, man, I was coding, my whole life, or it was like every day. Yes, very hands-on keyboard. And I'm very passionate about coding. Now I'm trying to mature myself into more of, kind of an intermittent, CRO, chief revenue officer, and focusing. So now, now we've got the seed round that seems imminent. And I'm like, I've never really been in this level of growth where I'm like, we get certain KPIs. I'm doing something fun over the next 20 years. So I'm trying to really do things right and try to learn to outgrow tech just for tech and just for the craft. How do we hit 2 times to 5 times year over year revenue growth? How do we increase retention and like our NRR? How do we keep headcount small? How do you resist these fucking huge vendors like AWS and Google that constantly just screw you with pricing and go towards more smarter and sustainable operations that can actually scale in revenue? Everybody default. I can talk about this a long time. Like these giant cloud vendors, a good example is like we obviously we're AI company, we have to use GPU. AWS charges $1,300 for the same spec as Hetzner. I don't know if they're another cloud company in Germany that goes for $200. So they're charging, 5 times, 6 times plus the amounts for cloud use, and with no benefits. And then they also charge you egress fees, and lots of other vendors will charge the same things. We also constantly getting AI companies coming to us and being like, we have automated training platforms. It's only $20,000 a month. And they're things that we can build in a month, right? And it's like, it's really hard. I mean,
A lot of noise out there, to say the least.
yeah, and I'm a very just build it, and it's free. The compute costs for them are low, and it's like, and we're learning, how these processes work. We're smarter. We're attaining knowledge across industry. We're saving costs long term. We plan to be around a long time, but you get in these partnerships. What we do have some partnerships, like for instance, centralized APIs for integrating with many ERPs or warehouse management systems. Like those are hard problems to solve. So we go to vendors and we still make those decisions, but we don't spend money just to spend money. Silicon investors love you to burn, but like they really don't, right? They want to see hard numbers. They want you to burn, right? But I want to burn that on salespeople. I want to burn that on marketers. I want to burn that on, and like trying to just grow into that of not being the selfish CTO is, I think, a very healthy and sobering mentality that I've been trying to take in, because I know it's what I'm supposed to do at this stage, but it's also very new.
Well, let's switch gears for a minute. What are some exciting current projects you're working on for Arvest that you're implementing new capability? I like to joke, Basil, but if we put 10 tech leaders in a room and asked them what AI is, we'd get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
Tell me about some fun projects you're working on.
Yeah. So our biggest thing is we're investing in quality systems. So we were originally a safety company. We realized even though like OSHA and like workers' comp things are crazy expensive, managers don't think of that on their end bill. It's like when it happens, it's super expensive, but they just aren't really aligned with that. So we're like, how do we're always, we get to the highest part of the ladder, talking to these executives, what they all want to talk about quality and like of shipped goods. So in a warehouse, you have your inbound or 3PL type warehouses. They got, trucks coming in, trucks coming out almost constantly. Sometimes you'll see them in, 50 plus lines waiting, to just drop off their goods and get out of there. But along those lines, things get bumped. Workers might damage the goods themselves, not careful, stabbing boxes with forklifts, knocking things over. And so what we're trying to do is identify, are there correct counts when things come off the truck, using just visual analysis. Like there's other vendors out there, but what really differentiates us is we're $0 infrastructure. We're not asking to install these giant robots and stuff that like other vendors we see using, our competitors, I should say. We're trying to come up with the cheapest and most innovating solution on the market. And cheap is also a form of innovation, I suppose, but highest quality and cheapest to run. So, and we're being very successful with that, I'd say, so far. So some of the things we're identifying is, like we'll see when the pallets come off, we're using AI to count and predict the count. And if there's any distinguishment, then we notify, and we'll automate the claims with agentic AI, say, hey, like, here's your insurance claim to send back to the vendor, which is normally a very expensive, long process to dispute because they don't have the evidence. Well, we took the picture, we took the video. Here it is coming off the truck. It doesn't have the correct count, or if something's got damaged on it. So we're also using large video models, which are very similar to LLMs like ChatGPT, where basically we can look for certain types of damage without having to do any training, which is really powerful for us because the world of logistics is so crazy diverse. And this is my first job in logistics, but every operation is different. The types of damages, if they're powder, if they're food. So we were like, we got this problem and we kind of hit the perfect time in like tech and AI, where this normally really expensive, and I would say bottlenecking for a lot of it. Computer vision companies have been around a long time, but they never hit scale because they can't hire an ML person for every operation, right? But we've been able to use large video models to be like, here's this new problem. We just prompt it out, and now we're able to identify this thing. And we're collecting data from all these customers. We're accumulating it. We're making it smarter. And so I'm very focused on making this computer vision company that can actually grow in like Salesforce enterprise type manner. Can be installed anywhere. We don't have to have engineers go out, do all this crazy work. Your cameras are set up. We got them pointing at the boxes. We don't have to do any AI model training, and we are able to produce output. So we're, super cheap, don't require any hands-on work from the company themselves, and then are able to distribute at amazing speeds.
What accuracy level are you able to get relying solely on computer vision?
Around percent. We're
Okay.
doing, and when we get new customers, sometimes, we're throwing curveballs and we don't necessarily hit anywhere near that number, but that's our post-pilot KPI.
Gotcha. And so your platform's up and running. You guys have clients running on it today. You're scaling, adding features, fighting the good fight.
Yeah. Fighting the good fight, trying to get rid of safety managers and quality managers.
What's, on a different note, what's one brutal lesson you wish you would have learned earlier as a CTO?
Reinventing the wheel. I mean, I talk about building stuff yourself, but I have previously made some pretty rough mistakes that I think come mostly from pride of like, this service sucks when it works from a business perspective, when it's making revenue, but it sucks to me. It's not built this way. It's insecure. It's not fast enough. And trying to, turn the wheel off the road to go and fix stuff. Technical debt's real. Learning to handle that responsibly and maturely is something that's really helped me more than anything. I think of just like deep breaths and like, it'll be okay. There is a way to get what I want while keeping the business intact and not affecting revenue, not constantly having to have conversations with the CEO saying, well, now it was production, but now it's not because we're re-engineering it, right? Those aren't fun conversations.
What advice do you have for CTOs out there working through all that noise?
Well, I mean, like what I hear from that is discussions with CEOs, right? Establishing strong relationships, and a lot like people make this kind of connection all the time. Like when you have a co-founder, it's like a marriage, right? And healthy marriages require strong communication. And there is a balance of standing up for yourself and standing up for your team without acting like a little kid, right? And being like, you can even say, this is how I feel. My team has been having tremendous velocity and KPIs. I'm very proud of them. I don't think we could really move a lot faster. Do you want to invest more money? Because those also have lowering returns, because then we have middle management and all these people that are already fast, So what are we going to do together to fix this problem? And being proactive. And I think those are the bridging that gap is all about working with your CEO and your sales officers and trying to advocate for your team. That is your number one job as the CTO but it's also to advocate the business. And it's bridging that, having those healthy conversations with both sides, but not being timid and also not just being prideful. I see that so many, especially the CTOs that don't make it that I've met, are they're dicks, right? Some of you might be listening, might have this kind of CTO where they just think the reason they are CTO is because they are the best programmer. We're leaders, and it's our responsibility to establish effective communication, good culture, and drive business goals. Really, I mean, good tech is important, but technology doesn't make a business. A business creates the need for technology, right?
Very well said. Basil, thanks for getting uncensored with us today. Really excited to see how you help shape the next chapter of Arvest and the tech industry at large. Any final shout outs or advice for tech leaders navigating change?
No, I guess if I could say one thing, just believe in yourself. Don't be scared to take risks. And yeah, I think that's it. Be opportunistic and love learning, love yourself, and don't be scared to just take a step away and lower your emotional threshold.
Well, and Basil, I love how you created your own opportunities, how you took charge. I think that's fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. I've built over 30 companies, taken the hits, and turned both wins into playbooks and losses into lessons I'll never forget. Now my company, Sonatify, helps other software engineering organizations build speed and alignment and help their teams flow more smoothly. If this conversation sparks something, share it, subscribe, or send it to somebody in the trenches. And just remember, the best leaders don't wait for the perfect moment. They build it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.